Thanks for joining us here on Outside Today. In 2004, the Connecticut Challenge was founded to expand cancer survivorship programs throughout New England. Jeffrey Keith and John Ragland saw a healthcare system that was struggling to keep up with post-treatment care for cancer survivors. So they began the charity cycling event. Their goal? Raise awareness and funds for expanding needs and also create a survivor network. Jeffrey Keith is here with us today. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you. Great to be here.
So your story is so fascinating, and what we've done is created a feature where we can be filled in on some of your incredible journey.
When I was 12 years old, life was pretty good. I was exposed to sports at an early age, and you literally couldn't get enough of it. The reality was, life was going to change pretty quickly. I was skating down the ice on a fast break in a game, and got tripped from behind. The next day, I found a crack in my knee, and they went through some more tests, and fortunately they found pretty quickly that it was more than just a crack, that it was a tumor behind the crack, and that I had cancer. So my life was pretty much turned upside down, and I went from being on top of the world to now being told that you're going to lose your leg, you're going to be faced with 2 years of chemotherapy, and your life as an athlete is over. And back then, when they tell you you have cancer, it's a death sentence. When they tell you you have one leg, you're supposed to sit at home and barely walk around. So, but I was determined, and it was really sports that got me back into the fray. You're proving yourself for the rest of your life as an athlete, as an amputee, but Terry Fox took it to the next level. I started watching the stories of Terry's run across Canada, and Terry had lost his leg and was committed to running across Canada on one leg, and I was just mesmerized by this. I mean, I still think to this day he's the greatest athlete that ever walked this earth. So, I had this dream of running across the country, and part of it was also I wanted to test myself physically, because I wanted to prove to people across this country that amputees could run and we could do these amazing things. But I also never forgot the kids that I took cancer with didn't make it. That I was, frankly, one of the lucky ones. I had my 5 best friends from college and my brother who were part of my road crew, and that was my team. Because I knew I couldn't do this alone. And to this day, I would have never finished the run without my team.
There was no doubt in our mind that when Jeff said he was going to run across America, that he would in fact do it. And really what we wanted to do was let him know we were behind him from day one.
I think the turning point for me was after I finished running 3,300 miles that day when we finished in LA, and I got thrown in the ocean and I stepped out, and then 2 days later we went to visit a hospital, and then I realized that the giving was probably something I underestimated. So in 1987, my high school roommate, college roommate, Matt Vosser, and I started Swim Across America. We thought doing athletic events to raise money was something we can come back to and do every year. So I started the Connecticut Challenge because survivorship has become a household name, and the problem that you have today is there's 12 million cancer survivors. That number is growing to 20 million, and when you get cancer, you go through these harsh drugs and chemotherapy, and unfortunately, it doesn't end when you're cured. So I wanted to launch the first survivor clinic in the state of Connecticut. I feel like one of the luckiest guys in the world because I work with great people, and the people we meet through the Connecticut Challenge are awesome, that help us. And, giving back is really, at the end of the day, it's all that really matters. So I would say, I think most people in life want to have a reason to get out of bed, and, I have a reason to get out of bed every day because what we're doing is helping cancer survivors.
It's really an amazing piece. I'm wondering, it seems like you were able to conjure up so much strength after your amputation. I'm wondering, where did that strength come from?
Well, we're always inspired by our fathers and our mothers, that first and foremost. I had a great family background, and my sister and brother was a nucleus for me. along the way, I've met some incredible people. And I was one of the lucky ones when I took my chemotherapy. The survival rates were 25%. And I never forgot the kids that didn't make it.
Sure.
And I do remember them to this day. And I feel like, frankly, I owe them to continue to move on and try to raise money, to raise awareness, and for a cause that's really impacts all Americans and everybody in this world.
So what kind of programs do you have at the Center for Survivorship? You know, what goes on there, and what does survivorship even mean?
Yeah, so take a step back. Survivorship is, we define survivorship as the day you're diagnosed, you're a survivor. There are 12 million survivors out there today. That number's growing to 20. When you finish your treatment and you're done with your cancer, many cancer survivors will tell you, and not me, that they feel like they're dropped off a cliff, that there's no post-treatment care. And the reality is, when you finish treatment, unfortunately, the drugs you took and the experience you went through creates a lot of other chronic diseases, and you're also at risk for cancer a second time. My whole thought process is growing up as an athlete and being able to train with Olympic athletes over the last 15, 20 years, I wanted to build the Olympic Training Center for cancer survivors. And it just so happened to be in Connecticut, but it would be a resource across the country, be a thought leader, blend in research, and share that with people across the country. The pillars of our center would be such that a lot of cancer survivors need to work with personal trainers that are certified to train cancer survivors, nutritionists that have an oncology certification, and psychotherapists that are trained and licensed in dealing with cancer survivors. So we felt that we would create a place where it would be for survivors only, as well as their caregivers.
Let's talk about the Connecticut Challenge. It did start out as a cycling event, but now it's much more than that, right?
Yeah, so the Connecticut Challenge event takes place in July every summer. We have a ride, 10 mile, 25, 50, 75, and 100. It's not a race. Anybody can do it. And we've had people ranging from my 7-year-old son doing the 25-miler to a 72-year-old doing the 25-miler. We had over 80 cancer survivors last summer, of which 8 were in active treatment, meaning
Wow.
they were in chemotherapy doing the ride. We had people from 16 states and 5 different countries come in, so it's starting to become the next bigger ride in New England. And there's no times, so you go out and it takes as long as you want to go. And we have over 8 rest stops, 12 SAG vehicles, 45 bike marshals, and tons of food. And it all ends down in Westport, Connecticut. And like I said, it's a ride for everyone. And if you don't ride, you can volunteer. Last year we had over 300 volunteers come in and help out throughout the day. And the event takes place on a weekend starting on Friday and ends on Sunday. So if you go to our website at bike.ctchallenge.org, and you can sign up, watch our video, see pictures from last year's event, and truly get to know it and find the place for you, whether that's to register as a donor or as a rider.
That's great. So it's really a great way for everyone to get involved at all levels of activity.
Yeah, we had over 126 teams last year. Many of which were from companies that are our corporate partners who are looking for ways for their employees to get involved, not just as a volunteer or a rider, but also with their organization. People like Aetna, People's Bank, BMW, and Amgen have fielded teams, and that list is growing and growing.
That's excellent. Well, best of luck with the Connecticut Challenge, with the Center for Survivorship, and really all the great work you're doing.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, and thanks for having me.
Sure. You're watching Outside Today, exclusively on Outside Television, America's active lifestyle leader.